pour on this computer. All right. Welcome everyone to the City of Peekskill Human Relations Commission meeting. It is Tuesday, September 28th, about 7:07 in the evening. We're delighted to have most of our members here tonight. We're hoping that a couple more members will also join us when they are able to do so. So for our first order of business is welcoming new members. Steve Colias was appointed by the City Council at a meeting last month, and we are delighted that he is our newest member. I feel as though we've added some serious talent in the last 6 months. We've got Nicola, we've got Trisha, and now we've got Steve. So Steve, would you be so kind as to tell us about yourself? What do you do with your days? What do you do for fun? And why were you so interested in becoming part of this august body?
Well, thank you. And hello, everyone, and thank you. And I'm a teacher. I'm a special ed social studies teacher in a neighboring district. And I moved to Peekskill about 6 years ago, actually almost 7 years ago. And I just love everything about Peekskill. And I've gotten involved a lot in the city recently. And I just think the city has so much to offer to so many people. And I want to be involved in HRC because I really want to advocate for creating an environment and upholding an environment of equality and for all. And I think that that's the most important thing. And we live in a city where we're very lucky that we, in a lot of ways, are, we do see equality being done on a daily basis, but it's important that we maintain that and we have that. And especially, I really would like to advocate for the LGBTQ community and particularly LGBTQ youth in the city. And being a teacher, I hope that we can work closely with the school district and with the youth bureau and hopefully the Boys and Girls Club once it opens to help create an equitable, city for all of our youth. And that's part of the reason why I'm here as well. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Why don't we just, the rest of us who are long timers or medium timers, just briefly introduce ourselves so that Steve knows who we all are. I'm delighted to see that Miriam is logging on, and I think she's trying to connect to audio. So Miriam, we'll call on you last just in case you're having connectivity issues, but our first item on the agenda is to welcome Steve as our newest member and introduce ourselves to him. So who wants to go first?
I will.
Thank you, Joe.
Steve, I don't think we know each other, but I certainly do want to say I'm so happy to see you here. I totally agree with the causes and the folks that you would like to give a helping hand to. And I think that we, with the new members and us old folks, if you will, I mean, never mind. I think we could come up with some pretty good programs, movable, actionable programs, which I think we should be involved in. And I think you're perfect for that task. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
Trisha, you want to go next?
Oh, okay. I am a manager of partnerships at an ad agency in the city. I handle all the advertising for Amazon in New York, radio and television. I am a district deputy for Westchester County for the Columbiettes, which is a female auxiliary of the Knights of Columbus. And I just previously was with Susie on the Police Reimagined and Reform Task Force. And now I landed here.
And we're glad you have.
Yes, it was bumpy, but I'm here.
Yeah. Nicola.
Yes, hello, Steve. It's hard to say welcome because I'm also new. So it's great to see you here. Your projects are something I 100% support and look forward to working with you on that. And I know from past conversations with you, you are a man of your word. If you say you're going to do something, you do it. And so I'm here to help, and I appreciate you being here very much.
Thank you.
Excellent. Miriam, would you take a moment to introduce yourself to Steve, who is our newest member? And it's wonderful to have you join the meeting this month.
I think she's
You're
on
on
mute.
mute.
Hello, everyone. How are you? And welcome to Steve. I'm very happy for you to join us in our committee. So I work as a paralegal at Julie Mullaney Law Office. And I'm also a member of the Peekskill Hispanic community and the Peekskill Assumption Church. And since 2017, I have served as a interviewer for scholarships through the Tushi Foundation. So that's just a little introduction of me, and welcome aboard. I hope to work with you throughout this time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Miriam. So I'm going to move the agenda around just a little bit because Joe told me earlier by email that he needs to leave a bit early before the end of the meeting. So I'm going to ask that we talk about the Hope Not Handcuffs program, which is the third item on the agenda. Move that up to the next item. So Joe, would you please talk? Oh, excellent. Yao is logging in. I'm so pleased. Oh my goodness. Hang on a second. Yao, you got much younger there for a moment. You're on mute.
Yeah, I was in an alternate universe. I just got back. You know, like what do you call it? Like the fifth dimension or something like that, like Twilight
Something
Zone.
like that.
Yeah, it's my grandson. Believe it or
Oh,
not.
he's
I thought maybe you
adorable.
took one of those space flights.
It went backward in time, right?
Right. I'm delighted to see you.
Well, I'm glad.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I guess we have to clear, everything up with City Hall or whatever, if they want me to continue. So I don't mind.
Well, I want you to continue, and I said that to Andy, and I said that to the city clerk. So we just need to get some paperwork worked out.
Okay,
because
absolutely. Because
I
I will be up there the 5th, 6th, and 7th for doctor's appointments. So
Okay.
I'll catch up. We'll catch up.
Excellent. All right, so we just did a round robin of introductions because we have a new member, Yao.
Who's
Steve
the new
Coleus.
member?
Steve Coleus. I don't know where he
Oh, I
shows
see
up
him.
on
Yes, I see him. Absolutely. How are you, Keith? How you doing?
Good. How are you?
So far, so good. So everybody, I take it, is doing well.
We are healthy.
Okay, perfect.
Yes, thank you. Good to see you, yeah.
Pleasure. Thank you.
So I was
Miriam,
just about to
I
ask,
see your name.
Let me turn the camera. Let me see.
There we
Haircut.
go.
Oh, there's Miriam. Oh, excellent. We can see you. Wonderful. I was just before you logged on, I was asking us to move the agenda around a little bit because Joe has to leave a bit early from the meeting. And
Okay.
so the Hope Not Handcuffs program is something that Joe would like us to talk about. And so Joe, please take it away.
Sure. Thanks for the move in the schedule. I appreciate it. I got some folks here from out of town, so I've got to take care of them. The program, just to review slightly, when our chief was here, that is our older chief, I had a discussion with him about where the Peekskill Police Department was in this program. So before I just do the review, I just want to say that this program has over 600 volunteers now in the Hudson Valley alone. And the volunteer force is the primary force behind what the program accomplishes. And what I mean by that is you could be an addict, you could be a drug addict, you could be an alcohol addict, and you can now walk into a police department in many, many cities in this county and the lower Hudson, walk in and be sure that you will be helped instead of being arrested. And that is the key to this program. I think it is something that's constructive. I think it is something that hopefully we can get out into our community through some of the means that I would like to take once the police department gets settled on its timing. So my talk, again, in review with our chief who has departed, left the city, I'm sorry. What I mean is that basically he has had discussions with other chiefs. He has joined the other chiefs. The department is now in the setup stage to create the person that will become the program head. And once that's accomplished, Don promised that he would put the police department and that person in touch with us. Right now, we have, of course, a new police chief, Leo Diluski, I believe is the way he says it. And I met Celia at an Irish festival this past weekend and talked to her a little bit. And she said he's probably going to need a couple more weeks to settle in. And then I could call her and set up an appointment to go talk to him about where we are and make that bridge between Don and now Leo. So that's my intent. For the new members, the hope, not handcuffs, is something that I have said before that I will train for. I would like to be a volunteer. And basically what happens is you walk in, you say, can I talk to the person who's in charge? And what will happen is within a half hour, the police will contact the controlling organization within Hope for Handcuffs. A volunteer will be at the police station, they promise, within a half hour. And that person will be led to an organization that will help them to recover and become maybe sober, maybe without drugs. And hopefully that is the case. So in short, that's about where we are. Again, it's a huge problem because we got close to 2 million people in New York suffering from some kind of addiction. And it would be really helpful to have a program that folds them in rather than drives them out or locks them up. So with that, I'll just say I intend to keep pursuing with our new chief and be reporting back to you as soon as I have some information.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Did they mention how long the training is to become the volunteer?
No, they did not. I didn't ask. As a matter of fact, I didn't ask the question.
Okay. That would be helpful.
Yeah. I'll get it for you.
Thank you for that, Joe. What, or you may not be able to answer this question yet, but what would you need from us as the HRC to help out with, to
Once I understand,
get the project well known, or do we need to work with the city on communications about this?
I would really like to get a fundamental agreement with the police on what does help mean, okay? How can we participate other than being individual volunteers? And what I'm hoping for is that as the HRC, we can help them to connect to organizations that we may be able to educate about this program. So what do I mean? Well, maybe it's a church, maybe it's a help organization, maybe it's the youth bureau, Steve, and maybe it's those kinds of groups that we connect with to make sure that the program is understood and basically funneled through the community.
Okay.
I consider us to be a help organization.
I would agree. I mean, our mandate is to provide education to the community about a whole spectrum of issues, and this would be a very important one, I think, for us to spread the word about. All right, thank you.
And again, thank you for the schedule change.
Certainly. You kind of gave us a nice segue into another agenda item, the transition to the new police chief,
Yeah.
Chief Dulewski. I guess he is now it as of Friday, since I think Friday was the day that Chief Halmy officially retired. What would you think about us inviting him to meet with the HRC, not to put him on the spot yet on the reporting on the progress of the police reform task force recommendations, although he certainly will have to do that along with Andy. We'll give him more than 3 days to get up to speed on that.
Right.
But what perhaps the October meeting or the November meeting?
I think that you're definitely gonna have a strong presence in the October meeting, and it might be better for the chief to do it in the November meeting.
Okay.
Only because, but the good news about that is he did publicly state that he will continue the work on the police task force. But I don't want anyone to get blindsided if things get heated. Do you know what I mean? Let's all just, we're gonna work together kind of thing.
Mellow work.
Yeah.
Sorry
That's my,
about that. I wasn't fast enough on the mute button and my dog howled.
I was at the council meeting last night, so I did see him get sworn in. And he did, as Tricia did say, he did mention that he will continue the work of the task force. And he did promise about getting a CCRB done as well when he spoke last night. So I think that it would be important to include him in the discussion. I think if we are discussing the CCRB in October, he's probably going to be part of the discussion anyway.
okay.
So
Yeah.
it would be, I mean, I don't know if we could maybe meet with him before our meeting and then have our meeting, about the CCRB after that, or at a different time, like if it's a different day, because I mean, obviously he's going to want to speak to it if we're speaking about the CCRB that night.
Perhaps we could arrange to have an informal gathering of the HRC to just meet him and welcome him and let him know that we support him and working together on the mandate that he's been given and that we have been given on as the HRC. I think having a chance to talk with him before the October meeting is probably a very good idea. Joe, when you give him a call about getting on his calendar for the Hope Not Handcuffs program, would you also ask him or ask Celia if he would be willing to have some pie and coffee with us?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and what kind of schedule would you look at? An evening or whatever?
I would think an evening for all of us who
Okay.
have multiple commitments.
And we'll try and make his schedule.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other possibility could be like a Saturday afternoon or something like that.
Okay.
Although I know all of us pack our weekends with house stuff and family stuff. So, hang on, sorry.
Somebody was going to say
apologize for
something.
that. That was my dog saying something, and I was trying to hit the mute button. Jan is taking her out. All right. So, going back to the second item on the agenda, I just want to mention it, although I have nothing to report on it yet, other than the community-wide survey on police and community interactions in collaboration with other civic and community groups. As we've talked about before, that is one of the recommendations that came out of the Police Reform Task Force report. And certainly it's an issue that continues to have interest from throughout the community. This is not, the city manager has said that he very much would like to see us coordinate this effort, but I'm very clear that we can't do it alone. That it needs to be representatives of the Latino community and NAACP and other agencies that we need to be able to work together on this. And so I'm hoping we may not be able to talk about it at the October meeting, because I think that is going to be, as Patricia said, a very full agenda to talk about the CCRB. But I'd like to see possibly in November if we could take a look at some examples of surveys that have been done in this area, one up in Poughkeepsie, one in Newark, and look at some areas that we would want to focus the survey on. There are two schools of thought about it. One is that it would be a golden opportunity to have an incredibly comprehensive survey that covers a lot of community issues. The other school of thought is that it should be really short and only a few questions, otherwise we won't get participation. I'd like to really see us spend some time working out a proposal so that we have the best chance to have a successful survey. So I'm going to ask that we put that onto the November agenda. So let's see, recapping the July HRC meeting. Miriam, you were not able to join that one by phone. That was the one that we actually had in person at City Hall, in that momentary lifting of the in-person restrictions for COVID. So we had a lot of technical issues, unfortunately, because it ended up being a hybrid meeting. We thought it was just going to be in person, and there were some folks who had been told it was going to be on Zoom, and so we had to try to like hold cameras and pass around microphones, and it was not as effective as we would have wished. And the content of the conversation was fairly stressful. I apologize for not keeping us to a tighter time schedule on that. That went far, far, far longer than we ever expected and that ever should. I commit to working hard on that for the October meeting so that we keep to a good schedule and that everyone has a chance to be heard, but not everyone has a chance to have a bully pulpit. So.
Is the October meeting going to be in person, or is it?
It is not going to be in person unless we get yet more guidance from the governor's office. I'm assuming that it's going to be on Zoom. That's
Okay.
not a bad thing.
Okay.
Because it makes it a bit easier to manage who wants to speak and in what order. So I'd like to hear your reactions to the July meeting. Yeah, you weren't here. You probably are glad about that, actually. Steve was not yet appointed to the commission, but he was there in the audience and asked questions and made comments. Tricia, you were there. You asked questions, made comments, as did you, Nicola. So love to hear your reactions and just let's debrief about this, remembering that we are recording.
So this question is for me about my reactions for the July meeting.
No, because you weren't able to be there. You don't have to comment on that. So those of us who were in the room, can we share our reactions about what we heard and how we might move forward? Nicola, you and I've had some conversations about this.
Yeah, I think you summed it up a few minutes ago, and I think that with the management of time, we'll have more covered and more efficiently. So just doing either a Zoom or live is better than a hybrid, in my opinion, for many reasons, logistical and otherwise. But I think we're doing well. I think we have the CCRB proposals coming in, and we're going to be able to review those in the time between now and October's meeting. And I know the city council and the mayor's office and the deputy mayor are certainly on top of it as well. So we're, I think we're in a good spot.
I'd like to ask the city manager's office to send us what has been sent to them so far, so that we can distribute it to the membership. And also, if appropriate, have it posted as a supporting document on our on the meetings and agendas page for the HRC, so that anyone from the public who intends to come to that meeting by Zoom also has a chance to read it. So at least we have a chance at talking about that we're on the same page rather than speaking into a vacuum. My understanding is that Jay Forbes has submitted some suggested amendments to the draft written by the NAACP task force on this, or committee rather. I don't know, there was an expectation that there would be another one coming in from Joseph Teal, who served on the police reform task force as well. I don't know whether that has come in or whether it will come in before our October meeting, but I'll try to work with the city manager's office to get that information out to all of us so we can really take a good look at it.
I mean, I was just going to add that, as someone just being an observer sitting there, not being part of the HRC at that point, it would have been really helpful to have the NAACP CCRB plan posted somewhere so that you could see it as a community member if it was being discussed. So I hope that will happen. And I went on the NAACP website. I didn't see anything anywhere. I went on the city's website. I didn't see anything anywhere. And so I just hope that can be done before our October meeting. And even if, we can get a copy, I think it's important that the entire community is able to see it, to understand it, to be able to read it before our meeting and be able to comment on it if they want to come and make comments or suggestions about it. And it was an interesting discussion. I did have a few questions, as you said. I raised a few questions, and I'll probably bring that up again with our discussion in October, depending on what happens. And if we get another plan as well from Mr. Teal.
I don't think that they communicated with each other. And that's why I think we all got thrown off, because there is a lot of meat to the proposals and they were not on the same page. And I don't think any of us realized that until it started to unfold. And I think, Steve, you kind of sat in the middle of everyone, right? So you could probably feel that, right? And
Yes.
I think that that's what it was. But since then, I don't think there's been any more coming from Joseph Teal, but that's not to say that he's not been working on it. We don't know that
That's
for
correct.
sure. So I
Correct.
wouldn't want to make that assumption, but I do know that they have tightened things up. And I also don't know if Derek had not mentioned that to me, that if they asked Jay, to look at the addendums that he wanted to make, or, changes or anything. I don't know if that happened yet either.
Okay. Well, certainly, we did not have the opportunity to really take a look at the plan before it was brought up on at the July meeting, and so it's critical that we have a chance to really review. And so I will try to get that from NAACP and also anything else from the city manager's office in the next week or so, when I come back up for air after my work thing this weekend. So.
Excuse me, Susie. Susie, I don't know if you can see me or not. My video is,
No.
my video disappeared. I don't know what happened.
Or a
I
cloud.
You look as though you're in a cloud, but we can hear you.
That is my usual state, by the way, but that's okay. No, I was
Bless your
just,
heart.
yeah, I was wondering about the exchange between Mr. Teal and the city manager, and Mr. Teal saying that he was stopped by the city manager in producing any substantial, let me just call them documents. And so whatever is coming out, I think if we're going to monitor and be a decent monitor, as Steve suggested, we should have more knowledge of the official documents that are being, that we haven't seen and are being produced.
I agree.
I don't think there'll be any issue with Valerie and Derek sharing their documents. And as long, when Susie gets word to now the NAACP, which Mr. Teal is involved with, right? Didn't he come from that place also where he was still continuing the document, or was it still being on the task force?
I don't know.
See, I don't know either. Unfortunately, and I will say this one last time, I think there was miscommunication about how this was all going to wrap itself up. And being on Zoom, that could easily happen. And some people thought that things were going to continue on. But, you know, it's quite clear now that they're not. And I'm sure once we, get that information over to the NAACP, they will finish up the documents that they have. And I'm sure they'll share them with us. And I think one last thing I just want to say, I was so pleased to read the police chief's comments right off the bat. And I really feel like, I never called him Don, but our previous chief,
He's
just out of
Don.
respect. I know, maybe now I'll call him Don, but I couldn't then. He really kept his word. And I was so pleased because there were 3 main points he made yesterday. And I'm just happy because this is decades in the making, the CCRB. And just to get something up and going will be just really great progress.
Yep. Well,
Thank you all.
excuse me again, but I do have to leave you right now, and thanks, and hope to see you next time. And
Right.
you all take care.
Thank you, Joe, for joining us. I
Hi,
appreciate it.
Joe.
Good
Be
to
well.
almost see
Joe.
you there.
Good night now. Good night.
All right. So the next item on the agenda is recruiting even more potential new members. I'm just over the moon happy to have 3 new members, and to have Yao deciding to continue with us, which also makes me very happy. I remain concerned that we have a better balance in terms of people of color. Miriam, you can't be the only person representing the Latino community. That's not fair. Yao, you can't be the only person, and Marlene, the only people representing the African American community. So, and we had also talked about having younger representation. I did find out, because Tricia asked me to determine whether or not there's a rule about how young you can be and be appointed to a city commission. The city corporation council tells us that you have to be 18 in order to be basically a voting age. However, there are ways to appoint youth representatives to some commissions. I don't know whether we qualify to have a youth representative, but if we do, it would be very, very good. And Steve, with your work with the Boys and Girls Club and youth, if we find out, and I'll follow up with the city manager and with corporate counsel to see if we can have an official youth representative, then Steve and Tricia, you were going to reach out to Nadalesh.
I did. And I did speak to her, but she did have one important question. She was afraid that the topics might be too adult, and she wasn't sure, you know, in what capacity, because around that age, they're thinking about what their life is going to be moving towards next. And so that she felt like they were busy enough. However, on the flip side of that, she thought it was a great idea for just including more young people of color, and then also just younger people to, you know, for them to have a platform. So I said that I would just relay that back and first until we got more information, and then you can let me know, and then I would give her a call back.
Okay.
Trish, sorry, who is the person you spoke with?
Nadalesh, she works with the NAACP, the youth division.
Okay, what's her last name?
I cannot think
Is
right
it
now.
Wilson?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Okay.
Nadalesh Wilson. She's lovely. She just had a baby, so she's
I
also
was going to
quite busy.
say, wasn't she due pretty recently?
Oh yeah, no, she has a baby. I think the baby's 6 or 4 months or 6 months now. Yeah, she has an infant. So, and that, you know, she's quite busy right now, but she's terrific. You know, she takes calls right away and everything. But those were some of her thoughts. And then she goes, I want to think about it more. And I said, but she goes, I need to know those answers. So, you know, I would need to know that too.
I think that's a great idea. I think we could possibly involve Dr. Maurizio or the school in some way too. I think that may be an idea to see if maybe just target high school seniors. And see if there's some high school seniors that meet certain requirements, like maybe GPA or something like that, that, you know, would want to be involved and possibly be, you know, a youth representative on the HRC and have their voice heard also, because this is their community as well. And I think that's important to have them involved. And I know that they have representatives in other capacities as well. So we may be able to see if Dr. Maurizio or the school board would be able to help us with that.
He's actually quite helpful. I just hope that we don't put a GPA so much on it, because I'd rather have someone that has the passion and wants to be involved in their community. And it's not always the 4.0 GPA student, you know, so.
Involve more students, more people. We could probably target more people, which brings back to the police interaction survey. This could be also a key way, like another way to help pass or engage more people and possibly doing the survey if that's what we're going to do in the future.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I think so. I think that's another way to have more a turn up for the community engagement. So I think, and I agree, a GPA shouldn't be important for involvement with if there's a youth division for us.
I know that if you went by my GPA in high school, my math scores drove it right down.
So did mine. I had to get a tutor. So there you have it. And all I do now is work with figures, which is so insane, because I was just, I even took art instead of typing. And to this day, I am typing with 4 fingers and not the rest of my hand. So somehow I skated through.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
So in any case, if you all would go through your mental contacts file and think about people from the communities that you most closely identify with. We can have as many as 11 people on the commission according to the city code. So right now we have 7, including Marlene. And so we could add 4 more people, and it would be lovely to diversify our commission. So, do we have any other business that we would like to bring up for tonight?
I just wanted to ask if anyone saw the YouTube of the night out event that was on YouTube. Did anyone
I did,
get a chance? And Trisha,
yes.
I passed it around. Steve, hopefully you could take a look at it. The Youth Bureau, was central to it, but the police were central to it. If I could just give my thoughts on that, Susie, is that all right?
Absolutely. Please
Okay.
do.
So the person who played kind of like the interviewer, I just don't remember his name right now, but he did such a great job of going to every booth and speaking to every organization that was there, asking them about themselves. And what it did was give me an idea of, what our community is about in some other dimensions. But it is also, I think, a good example of logistically what we could do either as a participant in the future a night out, or to organize something similar to that as our activity and just have almost identical things happening with the idea that we're getting to know each other and what we offer each other as a community. So if you haven't seen the YouTube video, take a look. Trisha, what did you think of it?
Honestly, I think that we're on the cusp of, well, with our changing demographics in the city and very strong SRO officers, there is a lot more. I know that there's tension with certain things, but I just feel like it would be terrific to have our own event. That was very successful, that event. And to me personally, maybe because I'm in advertising, it still should have been advertised stronger. Do you know what I mean? And even with what it did have, great turnout. And you could see so many young people's faces smiling. It really, I think that event really moved me out of like a lot that I've seen just recently. There were so many different age groups there, and then so many different, heads of other committees. I just thought it was really good. And I think it is a great idea for our commission to host something like that and to come up with ideas on what, would work. Maybe for the spring,
Yeah, spring or summer.
Yeah,
yeah.
Did you see it as well, Yao? Can't hear
Saw
you.
it. I saw it. Yes, I had.
Okay.
It was very good. It was very good. And I know the person. He's I believe he's the deputy director there, or I just can't think of his name off the top of my head.
Yeah, big.
But he's been around
That's-
forever. And he's been, because I used to do those outdoor events through the county of Westchester, transportation, and he's been there for a while, and he's very good, so yeah, it was good. It was good. He was
I
an
agree
attention to
about.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I
I'm
didn't mean
finished.
to
I'm done.
step on you. Sorry.
Don't worry. No, it's just that he's good like that. He goes to every person. He makes sure that everybody is counted. So he's very good. And like I said, if I can think of his name, I will. I'll mention it before we leave.
Or shoot us an email if you think about it.
Oh, absolutely.
I
I just, senior moments, man. I'm sorry.
I definitely agree that if we can do something like this, that communications is really key. Because I've been to the National Night Out a couple of times when they had it down on Division Street, when they closed off Restaurant Row. And I know it's an annual thing, but I didn't hear a thing about it this year until Nicola told me about it, that it had just happened. I'm like, oh, I would have loved to have been part of that. And if we'd had enough forewarning, we could have pulled together an HRC presence.
Yeah,
Well,
that was.
if I could
Tricia?
just, go ahead, Trisha.
No. I agree.
Yeah.
It was the same thing. I could have tried to do something. I would have loved to see half of the people that I worked with on the task force in person. So, because a lot of them are there. So, yeah, so I was, and it was a beautiful night.
Yeah, it was a beautiful night. I found out about an hour before and I said, oh, let me run down there. Yeah, I just saw something on the web and I ran down there and it was so nice. I didn't take any pictures because I was just trying to I saw Derek Wright there. I saw Tuesday McDonald, Martin McDonald. Everyone was there from the community. And I think if we pencil in our back of our minds something in the springtime, you know, as an HRC event, and just say, look, you know, whoever put that together, we're with you, and we'll just like piggyback, if you will, but we'll say it's an HRC thing, whatever, and we'll cooperate and do what we can and be there as well. Because for me, that was like an example of community relations. And if we're the, you know, Human Relations Commission, this was like a manifestation in so many ways. So I'm glad it was seen, and maybe we could do something in the spring.
Okay.
Yes, Daryl Francis.
That's
Daryl
him, yeah,
Francis.
Daryl
Okay.
I
Francis.
just, I had to go to the, I had to go to my phone.
All right. Miriam, do you have anything that you want to bring up before we start winding down? I want to make sure everyone has a chance to bring up ideas.
I did. I actually wanted to bring back to what we were talking earlier, this meeting about the new police chief. Since I work in the area of immigration law, I've noticed a lot, like, you know, that the police chief or the Peekskill Police Department in general, whenever I had sent, again, I have been in immigration for like the past 5-6 years now. And whenever I send in for a U visa certification, and for those people that are not aware of what a U visa is, it's for people that have been a victim of a crime and may not have an immigration status here in this country. Request basically requesting the police officer to like sign a immigration form, which that verifies that that person has been indeed a victim of a crime on such date. And we also include a copy of the police record or the police report of the incident. And every single time I have sent one in the past, it's always denied, is rejected. I would speak to the secretary. I would get a phone call back from the chief, and they will just say, "Oh, we don't sign. We don't do that." And that's very, very, very difficult, because a lot of people have been a victim of a serious crime, may be eligible for a U visa status in this country. It may eventually lead them to have a permanent residence in the future. But because a police chief or a police officer does not want or declines to sign the form, it's basically like they cannot pursue a U visa. They can't open up a case within immigration. And so that is something very concerning to me, because again, this is the in my profession, and I become attached to people, and I understand what they're going through. And it's just difficult, because it's like, you know, I see these clients that may have gone through a lot. And if this incident had occurred in New York City or in some other, you know, city, like, we would have been able to help them. We would have been able to open a case for them. And that's something that I haven't seen happen in Peekskill in the last 5 years that I have been working in this immigration profession. And I think, you know, if there's a way to create more engagement or more trust in police officers, I think they also need to help this small community, which may be undocumented immigrants that may have been victims of a crime. And yeah, if there's
Thank
a
you
way,
for that.
yeah. I just
Would
want
you
to.
be willing to talk about that, to put that on the agenda when we have our meeting with the police chief in November?
I would
Good.
love to. I really want to do that. Yeah. Thank you.
That is so funny. That has never come up in our discussions with the police. Never. Crime has, social workers, all different things. That has not come up.
But
And
you know,
that absence alone tells us.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's frustrating, because, like, you know, whenever I call, like, with different police departments, I may come across some police officer and they're like, what's a U visa? I've never heard of that. And it's like, how can you not hear about this? This is like part of your job. Like you need to you're going to get certification requests. And sometimes some of these requests are ignored, or police officers or chiefs or the detectives don't want to sign it, or they decline to, even though there's a police report there. And sometimes they're like, oh, it's not strong enough for them to get a U visa status in this country. But it's like, leave it for us, like leave it for the immigration attorneys to make all those arguments for these clients. So that's why they're immigration attorneys, because they're going to find ways how to make arguments of why this person should obtain should have a U visa status, not a police officer. They're not immigration. They don't make that decision. All they have to do is sign so that client, so that victim can actually file for an immigration case in this country.
Well, I think you have a hook area, because the police chief has already publicly stated that out of the 3 things that he's willing to do, one of them is further education of his police department and offering more courses. So he has publicly stated that this week. So there's your hook right there.
There you go. Thank you. I'm going to add that here to my notes.
Yes.
Yep.
May I ask you a question, Miriam?
Yes, of course.
Okay, in that circumstance, I wonder why a police report with the victim's name on it is not sufficient?
It's not under immigration proceedings, under immigration Department of Immigration, you have to submit it's a form called I-918 certification form. So you cannot submit a U visa form without that certification form. It's like, you can't. You need the certification signed by a police officer in order to submit your U visa immigration form.
Do you have a backlog of cases here in Peekskill that fit in that category?
I do have a couple, and it's just, every single time I ever see a client, coming in for a consultation and I hear about, their the crime, like some of them have like anything. It could have been a domestic crime. It could have been like an incident, I think there was one that was a couple of assaults, you can't. Every time I call, they're like, oh, no, we don't do that. Or, go and talk to DA. And sometimes we're lucky. We can get it from the DA. We can get it from other forms, but there's other times where it's just taking way too long when.
Well, could I want to underline what Tricia said, and I don't want to interrupt. I think Yao is trying to say something as well. But before I pass the mic, if I will, if that's appropriate to say, I think you could call and contact the city manager on this particular issue if you have some outstanding things that still need to be signed. That's my opinion.
That's true.
I can bring it up to that too. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, let me write that in my notes too.
Yeah, what were you going to say?
No, I'm good. I'm good. All I'm gonna say is one thing, is the fact that you just need to get some contacts with, so I don't know, I'm gonna look around, or I'll ask around about contacts, because you need a contact in the police department that will just be that one person that will sign that paper, or 1 or 2 officers that will sign that paper. Because it seems to me, what I'm hearing from you is that they just don't know. And if they do know, they're reluctant to do so because somebody's told them not to do that. So it came from somewhere. Either they're not taught that, or somebody's telling them, no, you can't sign that.
I spoke to different officers. And it's usually passed on to the highest person rank.
Correct.
which would be the chief. So I've heard from the chief directly and from his secretary that no, they don't do that. So, you know,
So they're not, so yeah, they see, they already told you that they're not gonna do that.
they're
So
not
then
gonna, if you don't do that, we don't sign that.
So that's when you go and you gotta find a politician. Sorry to say.
I did.
You gotta find somebody to rally that, because if they make that decision, they're not going to do that, they're not gonna do that.
Yeah,
You know,
so I did speak, and including one of the clients actually has a really good, has like a good relationship, I think, with one of the, or a couple of the local representatives, but they were like, you know, we can't do that. If they said that they can't, then we can't tell them to sign it for you, you know, which again, it is true. And that's why I would like to speak to the new police chief to express my concerns for this, because, you know, this is something that
yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. That's important. So your next move is to take it to the streets. I mean, you know, that's where it has to go. I mean, if everybody's passing the, you know, buck, you're gonna have to, you know, do some type of silent protest or some type of something, you know, to get people's attention on this.
The only
Miriam, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Does the police officer who filed the police report have to be the person to do the signing, or can it be any police officer?
It could be any police officer.
Okay.
It could be any like but to know who the head person, which would be the head person, would be the chief. So it doesn't always have to be the chief that signs it, but I think some police officers are reluctant to signing it because they might get up they don't want to get in trouble by the police chief.
Oh, yeah, there's no way if the police chief says you can't do it, or is somebody else gonna sign it.
Yeah, they're
But I
not gonna
would bring
sign
it up
that.
Yeah, they're not going to, but I would definitely bring it up to the new one, because it still could be, there were a lot of issues that had to be dealt with the last police chief, and maybe it just didn't make the top of the list. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So, and again, if the rest of the police department is not aware of this, you know what I mean? That's where, again, I would get to him first, give him that respect first.
Yes.
Please give your hand up.
Yeah, so I thank you for bringing this up. I was just reading up on it, and it looks like you need, for someone to sign an I-19 918B, it says you have to have a certifying official. So it has to be an officer that's a certifying official.
It could be a police officer, it could be a district attorney, but usually it's either a district attorney or a police officer. Usually it's much easier and faster to do it with police, with the police department, than with the DA. It's essentially much faster.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't see that it said any police officer, but that's interesting that it could be any police officer. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess it's something to definitely look into and see why it's not being done. I mean, I would ask when the last one was actually signed here in the city, if there has been one. It looks like you can also get a local judge to sign it as well, or any judge for that matter can sign it as well. It says, I'm on the government's website, the USCIS website, and it's saying who can actually fill out the form. So it's like directing it that it only can be the head of an agency or in a supervisory role, and your agency has designated you a certifying official, or you're a federal, state, local, tribal, or territorial judge. At least that's what it's saying on there.
It's much difficult to get a signature from a judge. Usually, in all those times that I have done IU visa certification, we've mainly done it through police officers, or like supervisors, or the chief, or the DA. But the DA, again, it's like, you know, a long time, and for a judge, I think that's even like much more longer.
Yeah.
But again, it would depend on like whether the judge had jurisdiction on that case. Was that judge, you know, the one that had sentenced the charges? So.
Miriam, I have a question.
Yes.
I think the first time I was on the HRC, the first meeting, you were there and there was a representative from the DA's office making a presentation. Am I correct?
That is
Oh,
correct. The
Okay,
woman
yeah, I think
who is the hate crimes unit.
I think you should contact her.
Okay.
That's a good idea.
Along with the city manager. But what Steve said is very, very instructive.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an attorney or anything, but I just,
I'm sorry.
no, I'm sorry.
Does anybody remember the name of the attorney who did this presentation?
I will dig that out of our email archive because she was very, very good and she's very, very helpful and was thrilled to be presenting to us. So yes.
Okay.
And
This is
frankly,
pretty-
victims of crime should be right in her portfolio.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they probably
Alright,
have
so-
someone as the liaison to Peekskill that we can, or if she is the liaison to Peekskill, that the residents can use, as someone who they can, get information from or contact.
Okay.
I will dig that out, Miriam, and send that to you.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
All right. Anything else that we need to bring up for the good of the commission, or could we actually end our meeting a bit early this evening?
That'll be perfect. See you
All
guys
right.
later.
Thank
Yes.
you very
We gotta
much.
make a
for-
motion, right? We have to make a motion on
Yeah,
this
I
or
do.
something like that?
Do I
Okay.
have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Do I
I
have a
second.
Yeah,
second?
second, third. All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you,
All right,
Susie.
Thank
All
you so
right.
much,
Thank you,
and
Susie.
I will
Great to
get
see
this
you all.
recording to Mike
Same here.
Minor, so that
Yes.
he can post it onto the city website, and we can hear from our fellow citizens who may want to watch it. So
Cool.
thank you
All right.
all. Have a wonderful
All right.
evening. Be safe. Be well.
Okay.
well.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
You as
Thank
well.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.